Okay, hello everyone. So for this lesson, which is 6.4, I first want to go over dividing, just basic divisions with numbers, no variables included. Just for us to kind of like remember how did we used to do this in case you have forgotten. I know nowadays we use our phones a lot, but when it comes to dividing polynomials, right? So a polynomial by another polynomial, we use the same process as we do with a normal division, the way that we used to do it in elementary school. So I want for you guys to kind of remember and have kind of like a refreshment of that method that you used to use back in elementary school, so you'll be able to understand better how to divide two polynomials. So in this case, we first have 638 divided by 5. That means that 5 will go outside, and then we have the little house, and then 638. I've always called it little house. I don't know why. I guess I feel like it's a ceiling, and then there's the door in the front. So I'm gonna call it little house. So 638 is inside. So what we want to do is we want to see how many times does the number outside, which is the divisor, fits in the numbers from left to right of the dividend. So the dividend is the number inside. So here we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does a 5 goes in the 6? Right? Now if we want to, if we don't remember, we can go ahead and go back to the times tables of 5 and then see when does 5 times a number gives you something close to 6, but that it's not over 6. So in this case, we can say, well, 5 times 1 equals 5. 5 times 2 equals 10. Well, 10 is already over 6, right? So that means that 5 goes once in 6. Now, this was probably pretty obvious. I just wanted to give like the long explanation. So 5 goes once in 6. And then we multiply, right? So 1 times 5. And then this is going to give us 5. And we subtract. We always do the opposite, right? So subtraction. So 6 minus 5 will be 1. Now, I bring down the next digit. And this is 13. So now I want to see how many times does 5 goes in 13. So 5 times 2, we saw before that it was 10. 5 times 3 is 15. That's over 13, so we're going to say 2. So 2 times 5 is 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put 10 below 13 and subtract. So 13 minus 10 is 3. Now I can go ahead and bring down 8. And so now this is the last one. So 5 in 38, right? How many times does it go? So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 8 is 40. That's already over 38. So 5 goes 7 times in 38. So 7 times 5 gives us 35. So 38 minus 35 will be 3. So now the result, right, the answer is 127 and then 3 over 5. Now this 3 comes from this one. The number that it's like a leftover. So I usually call this the leftovers. They're still being divided by the divisor, which is 5 in this case, right? So we write that as a fraction. So it's 100. I put 125. That's 127. So this is 127 whole numbers, right? And then 3/5. Because we had 3 leftovers. And this is going to be my answer. Okay, now Now let's try another one. This one's a little bit more complex than the previous one. This is 627 divided by 25. So we notice that in the first one, we only had one digit for the divisor. So one number outside, right? Now in this case it's 2. Usually when we are working with 2 digits, what you want to do, of course, look how many times, in this case, the 25 goes in the numbers from left to right. However, if in one case the number is too big, then you can just pay attention to the 2, right? We can focus on the 2 and the first digit of whatever number we have inside. Okay, so for instance here, 25, here I'm considering the whole thing, 25 in 6. Of course it doesn't go in 6 because it's too big, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 over the 6. So now I'm going to say, okay, 25 in 62. And this is when I'm going to go ahead and pay attention to my number 2 and my number 6. And I'm going to think, how many times does the 2 goes in the 6? Well, it goes 3 times. So let's go ahead and multiply 25 times 3. And let's see if it doesn't go over 62. So 3 times 5, it's 15. 3 times 2 is 6, and 1, 7. So that is 75. It goes over 62. So let's try one less. So let's do 2 times 25, which is 50. So that works perfect. So we're going to use 2. 2 times 25 is 50. So I'm going to go ahead and put 50 down here. Remember, the numbers on the top multiply the divisor. Okay. So it's 62 minus 50. That's going to be 12. And I'm going to bring down the 7. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Have some space. And now again, I'm going to go ahead and look at my number 2. And, well, first 1. We know 2 doesn't go in 1. So I'm going to go ahead and take 12. 2 and 12 goes 6 times. So let's go ahead and see what is 6 times 25. Well, 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12. And 3 is 15. This is over 127. So let's go one lower. So 5 times 25. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10. And 2, 12. So it's 125. So we can use 5. Now 5 times 25, we notice it's 125. We subtract. And then we have 7 minus 5 is 2, and then 0 and 0. So my answer for the second one will be 25 wholes and 2 25ths. Okay. Now let's try the last one. So we have 234 being divided by 39. Okay. So for this one, we can tell that first of all, 39 doesn't go. So 39 doesn't really go in 2. So that's a 0. It doesn't go in 23. So there's another 0 over 3. So that means that we're going to have to take 234, so the whole thing. Now, so this is when I say I'm going to go ahead and take the first digit, right? And then see how many times here the 3 goes in the numbers from left to right. So 3 doesn't go in 2, so I'm going to go ahead and take 23. So 3 and 23. How many times does 3 goes in 23? Well, if we remember the times table of 3, we know that 3 times 7 gives you 21. That's less, right? 3 times 8 gives you 24. So that's above 23. So let's try 7. So 7 times 39. 7 times 9 gives you 63. And then 7 times 3 is 21. And 6, it'll be 27. That's too much. So not 7. Let's try 6. So 6 times 9 gives you 54. 6 times 3 gives you 18. And 5, 23. And that is actually perfect. So 6 times 39 was 234. Subtract and it's 0. That means that the answer for the third one will be 6 wholes and then 0 leftovers, right? 0 reminders. So the answer is 6 for this one. The answer is 25 and 2 25ths for the second one, and 127 and 3/5 for the first one. Okay, so again, this is just kind of like going back into how we used to divide back in elementary school.